Hello, I'm Rob Thomas, and welcome to another edition of The Road Back, brought to you by Club and Resort Business, Club and Resort Chef, and the Club and Resort Chef Association. This episode of The Road Back is sponsored by Martin Design Golf. Golf course architecture requires vision, the ability to see the possibilities. Martin Design sees the possibilities and has been providing golf course architecture since 1991. Public or private, on time and on budget. From environmentally complex to resorts of massive scale to more precise bunker renovations. From seasoned historic clubs to new construction, their job is to engage the golfer so they return again and again. Martin Design is making the game better. To learn more, visit martindesigngolf.com or call 630-707-5071. For today's fresh insight in how clubs are meeting the challenges posed by the coronavirus pandemic and are finding new and innovative ways to boost business levels and start to return to full operations, we're talking with Joel Purpur, Superintendent at Park Ridge Country Club in Park Ridge, Illinois. Joel, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Hey, Joel, real quickly, you guys did you undertook a relatively extensive bunker renovation during this whole process. Can you tell us what the bunkers were like prior to the renovation?
Prior to the renovation, our bunkers had steep bank faces of grass, very little flashed up sand, so the sand itself was pretty flat on the bottom. You may or may not know that bunker sand has an expected lifetime. And what happens over time, it gets pretty silted up and no longer drains. So the sand needs to be replaced typically somewhere around 10 years. And we approached that point where we had to change the sand type. And at the same time, the members expressed an interest in wanting to maybe have a little bit different configuration and design of the bunkers. Some of the faces were fairly severe, so they wanted something a little more playable. So as long as they were changing the sand type, it seemed like a good time for a redesign. And a couple of years went into the planning process, and it was voted on to do this in 2020.
Now, with I imagine this, like you say, a couple of years went into it. This is prior to the pandemic. Were there any thoughts of maybe delaying till after the pandemic to start the process?
That's a good question. They kind of went back and forth on that, mainly wondering how the pandemic would affect them financially, affect the membership. Would they be losing members? But some of the money had been collected prior to the pandemic. They voted to go forward with this. Now, originally, the project was supposed to take place in the fall. They were going to do 9 holes starting somewhere around end of August. And then after those 9 holes were completed, they would close the rest of the golf course and complete it later in the fall. But because of the pandemic, they thought, can't use the golf course anyways, we might as well start this early and get some of this out of the way, have less to do in the fall. Once they started that, they were going to do 9 holes then in the spring and then 9 in the fall. And as long as, there were no large gatherings at the time, they voted to continue and get all 18 holes done. Now, we were lucky that our contractor was flexible. They agreed to start early. Fortunately, for us, they were willing to keep going, and we got the whole thing done early on and finished up first week of August, and everything's knitting in, and they have the whole fall to themselves now.
That's terrific. Were there any COVID-related challenges you had to face?
Yes, mainly from just a social distancing thing. We did staggered starts with the crew. We've got a fairly small room where we typically did our assignments for the jobs. We moved that into our main shop building so everybody could spread out. But, in a way, It helped us and the crew doing this project early because they only approved minimal maintenance for golf courses, which mean I probably would have laid off some of my crew. But since our crew was helping in some of this construction thing with things like irrigation drainage, removing the old sand out of the bunkers, when they were finished installing the new sand, I was able to keep a full staff on.
Great for the staff for sure.
It was great for the staff. Plus, it saved the club a lot of money as far as our guys can do it less expensively than the contractor.
You used the Better Billy bunker system. Can you describe that real quick for us?
There's several different kind of what they call liners. It's a layer between the ground and the sand. Better Billy bunker is washed pea gravel, and the pea gravel's got to be a certain size analysis. But they put a layer of that down, and then they spray it with a polymer, which is kind of like an epoxy. And they spray that, and what happens is it dries rock hard. It's kind of like a large Rice Krispie treat of pea gravel that water will infiltrate through, so it's porous. And it also helps hold the sand up if the sand prevents a lot of erosion in washouts.
Great explanation. I love Rice Krispie treats. Hey, lastly, before I let you go, God willing, 2021 is going to be totally different than 2020. This pandemic will be behind us, at least the bulk of it. Any lessons you learned from this process that you're going to take forward to 2021 and beyond?
Oh, there's always lessons to be learned. Organization. But I think there's a lot of people will come out of this with some type of benefits, not golf course related, but just maybe lifestyle related. I've seen more people in the neighborhoods walking, doing things and appreciating some of the value of family and simplifying life a little bit.
Very well said. Very well said. Joel, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for watching this edition of The Road Back, brought to you by Club and Resort Business, Club and Resort Chef, and the Club and Resort Chef Association. Again, today's episode was sponsored by Martin Design Golf. If you have a great idea or success story you'd like to see featured on a future episode of The Road Back, please contact us at editor@clubandresortbusiness.com.